So hello, in this video, I'm going to be joined by Pablo Fonseca, who has created a Streamlit component that allows you to use AGGrid in the Streamlit Python framework. So hello, Pablo.
Hello. Hello, Alan.
So it's really good to speak to you. I mean, like, first of all, I've used your component in Streamlit, and it was the reason that I started using Streamlit. I'd never used Python before, but I was able to create a couple of applications really quickly and host them on the Streamlit site. So thank you for introducing me to Streamlit and Python and for building the component. So that's been really useful for me.
Yeah, that's nice to hear.
So how would you describe your wrapper library and what it does?
Yeah, actually, I wrapped the AGGrid component. That's a very nice tool, and I wrapped it to use in Streamlit, and I try to make it to have the same use and feel as users using AGGrid on React or JavaScript. So I try to make everything transparent. So you can rely on AGGrid documentation and try to use that on Python. So what it does, it's a data grid. So it handles data and enables you to filter, to select, to work with this data, to see it in real time. And it's very powerful when you combine that with Streamlit and Pandas, because you can load large data sets and work around it, and then select and view the data and maybe paste it somewhere else, or maybe save it somewhere else. So far it's working really fine for me.
Yep. So for people that don't know, Pandas is so I think of it as just a data library for manipulating data. Kind of, if you don't have a database, and you can feed in CSV and do lots of transformations and filtering things. And Streamlit itself does have a table component, but it's not really as interactive as AGGrid. And it is I think it's a table. I don't think it's a grid. So I'm not sure if it does pagination or not.
No, it's just the default data grid component in Streamlit. It just renders the data. What's nice about the AGGrid component is that you have a bidirectional flow of data. So you can either render the data and see your data set, or you can input data as well and have Python receive that. So it's a nice alternative if you want to manipulate large volumes of data, if you want to cherry pick a data point to edit. So it's very useful.
Yep. So I mean, I've used it with the Python library advertools, which allows me to bring in sitemaps and scrape sites, and it generates Panda data frames, and then I render them in the grid. It's interesting working with Python in terms of using a JavaScript library in Python, because it does feel like Python, because all the object, the dictionary syntax in Python is very like the object syntax for JavaScript. So it maps very well. And you can inject the JavaScript by putting in the, whatever it is, unsafe JavaScript flag on Streamlit, and then you can do all the things that you can do. So there is some learning in there when you want to customize it, but your examples are pretty good for that. Because when I was trying to use the Streamlit wrapper as an editable grid, that was interesting, because it's like React. You have to memoize or cache all the things beforehand to allow the editing to happen. So, I mean, was this your first React project?
Yeah, it was my first React project. I never coded anything in React or JavaScript before. And it was a natural thing to do, because the example repository of Streamlit components, they have a sample repo if you want to develop your own components, is written in React. So I had to take some time to learn the basics of React and to set up the project. There was a learning curve, but it was fun. to learn.
And were you using this for work or for personal projects?
For personal projects. Actually, I'm not. I'm not working as a coder or a programmer right now. A developer. I work in a total different industry. I work with renewables, and usually I code and develop some small applications as a hobby or just a way of testing some ideas. And using Streamlit and AGGrid, it will make it's really easy to develop prototypes.
Yeah, so I found that with Streamlit, it's very easy to, because I haven't even read the documentation for Streamlit. I just looked at a couple of examples, set it up, started writing some simple code. It just works. I don't know how it's working under the covers. It's like magic. Python, and it's appearing in the front end. I don't know what it's doing. I haven't investigated in detail. So shall we show people what your wrapper does? Should we get an example up and see how it works?
Okay. So that's a main example application. I use it as a playground to test some features while I was developing. And basically, we have the component here, the AGGrid loaded with some random data. And below, I have a chart that's not related at all with AGGrid. This is an Altair chart. You can use whatever you want here, Plotly, or any other library, Matplotlib. So I use this, and what this does, I have these 3 columns here, and I'm charting the sum of each column. And if I select, for instance, this data point, it highlights here. So 91 is, so that's basically an example.
Cool. And the good thing about Streamlit is in the top right, people can see the code.
Yeah, if you go down there, I have the code for this example here.
Yep. So it's very easy to get started.
Yeah. And one nice thing of AGGrid is that I can edit this. So let's say instead of 17, if I had 1,000, that would be updated in real time. So there are 2 components here. Talking with each other, and Streamlit handles all the communication, so that's transparent for the user. And if I select this right now, I have this line highlighted. And here I have the grid return. So what I input here I can use in models or whatever I want to insert this data. So I have it here. And what's really nice, I can even turn on the enterprise modules of AGGrid. And then, for instance, if I want to pin this column here on the left, and then I want to group by, and maybe select all the A group rows, then I have all the rows that are tagged with A group.
Yep. So and just in case anyone from the sales team is watching this get nervous, you do have the ability to add the enterprise license in the code. So people can use this without a paid license.
Yeah, exactly. So it's if you're doing this for a commercial or other situation not covered by the free license, you can purchase a license and use it on the AGGrid. It will handle nicely without that watermark. So basically, is this what AGGrid does? So it has a lot of potential to as your imagination permits, it can cover a lot of your needs. Really easy to use. Other things that I added here. All those examples are requested by users, right? So whenever users message me on Streamlit forums or on the GitHub pages, I try to help them. I end up developing a small example. So most of them are user questions. So I got this one about themes and themes. You can have a lot of different appearances for the grid, and I got this Streamlit one because the Streamlit you can use either in light or, let me move you around here, or in dark mode. So if you go dark, the grid will follow, will be dark as well. So that's one thing that I developed because a user requested. I think the last one, it was about nested grids. This is a data set, an example that is on the AG grid documentation, and a user was having difficulties to implement this, and I tweaked the code a little bit, and then you can do nested grids as well in Streamlit. And the code here is really simple. It's just a dictionary as you would do with the grid options covered by AG grid documentation. You read a JSON and do your render. So what I try to do here is to make the experience easy as possible. So you focus on what you want to develop and not on boilerplate code and setting things up.
Yep. And had you used other things like Jupyter and the interactive lab environments before?
Yeah, before when I started using Python, I first started with Jupyter because it's easy. You work with the code and you see the results in real time. But with AG Grid and Streamlit right now, what I'm doing, I have two screens. In one, I write the code, and in the other one, I'm seeing my Streamlit application live with the data grid. So this setup of Streamlit AG Grid actually to replace the use I had for Jupyter. So
and the good thing is these examples are almost self-documenting because they're running, it's working with the source. You can see the source in there. Streamlit is really powerful and flexible like that.
Yeah.
And it's also easy to host because this is hosted on Streamlit for free. But it runs locally in almost exactly the same way.
Exactly.
So it's fantastic for prototyping.
It's fantastic for prototyping and showing your ideas around. I'm very happy with what I achieved here. I started it for fun, right? So just and many people engaging and requesting new things. So it grew fast. So far, I'm having fun with this.
Until the maintenance effort kicks in.
Yeah.
No, but it's really good. And because I've been learning both Python and Streamlit from your examples. Because I didn't learn about SD cache until I was looking through the code for your examples to see how it all worked. And I didn't use the toolbar on the side until I was looking at your examples. So thanks for making everything nice and clear. So what are your future plans for this?
Yeah, right now I need to focus more on the documentation side. because I feel that there are a lot of hidden flags and stuff that needs some documentation. My plan is to get all the examples that you have on the AG grid documentation, the component one. Let me AG grid. My idea is to cover most of the examples you have on the documentation.
So that's a lot of examples. I think we have thousands.
Yeah, but my idea is to at least the most common ones to replicate them in Streamlit. So you can, because at the end it's just like having these grid options here inside Python and loading the data.
Yep.
Yeah, so first thing, documentation. I want to write more examples. And I'm also working on having data not only as pandas data frames, but as JSON also. So if you don't want to load the data as a data frame, if you want to do a request to an API and directly load the JSON, that's what I'm planning for the next release.
That would be cool. So how long have you coded Python?
I started using Python learning in 2015 as a hobby, and I came in contact with the Streamlit about 2 years ago when I tried when I started developing the AG grid to learn how the component works. So about 7 years I'm coding in Python.
Cool. And have you been building your own projects using this as well?
Yeah, exactly.
So have you got a side hustle application that you're working on?
Yeah, actually, I'm not making any money of this. Just for learning. Maybe if I put more effort on this, I can make some spare money. But so far, it is a hobby.
Well, you're certainly getting quite a lot of attention in the Streamlit community. People are looking at this and using it quite a lot. So I'll make sure to add a link to your LinkedIn profile when we release the video, so people can contact you.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you. Thank you.
So is there anything else we should cover and drill into, or have we covered most of what you wanted to show?
Yeah, I think we covered most of what I wanted to show. People feedback is really important, so I can direct where to go. So far, people.
Yeah, so I do recommend people have a look at it, because you can see on the screen now, you've got the AG grid at the top, and then if you scroll down, that other table is the built-in table for Streamlit. Actually,
this is a HTML table, not the default. The default one is, let me see for this one. This default one is this one here, right? And actually, I had to use HTML because the way the default grid handles time deltas, it crashes. Right. So that's why I had to use the HTML. So this one is running locally.
Cool. So now you're just demonstrating that Streamlit itself can run locally with exactly the same features. And what's also good about Streamlit is you just put this into a GitHub repo and then just deploy straight onto Streamlit, and it updates magically. Yeah, and if you update the code and you just commit and push it, your application will be updated automatically. So no deploying anything. It's really, really easy. It allows you to focus on exactly what you want to do without losing time learning how to deploy applications, how to work with keys and stuff and hosting.
So it's very fast.
Okay, so I'll include links to the GitHub repo and where they can find the documentation, your LinkedIn. Are there any other links that we should have where people can find you?
I guess you can link to that forum on the Streamlit, the page. So because a lot of users are talking over there, and we have a group at Streamlit called the Streamlit Creators. There are people like me that developed some components.
Cool. All right. So in that case, all that I think remains for me is to thank you for turning up and showing us and doing the video. But thanks for creating it in the first place, because it is introducing at least me, but I assume more people to Python and Streamlit and creating simple prototypes and apps in here. And some of the apps are very complicated as well. So people do create big apps using Streamlit. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you. If you want to reach me later, if you want to talk more about this, I'm available anytime.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks a lot.
Cool. Thank you.